Hey there! We're going to get started with gelatos. I'm Rita Barakat and we are going to cover the basics today. So, first of all, what is a gelato? Well, I'll tell you what, it's not. It's not this, but it is this. Gelatos are watercolor chalks that can be applied to lots of different surfaces. They're smooth, kind of like a lipstick, and they can be transformed into watercolor with a brush or smudged like I'm doing here with a sponge or your finger. When you do it dry, you're blending those colors together into the paper and it comes out smooth, kind of like a pastel. Once you've blended that in, you don't have to worry about sealing it. It's good to go. You can do lots of different things with it, which I'm going to show you today, but you can see it doesn't come off on your hands as long as you've blended it. You can also use gelatos wet. And so I'm putting some color down and I'm using a wet paintbrush just with water, and you can see the beautiful watercolor technique there. You can also add more to that color if you didn't feel like you got it dark enough and you want to brighten that up a little bit, and just add a little bit more water with your water brush. How can you use gelatos? That is a great question. So we're going to start with our basic, getting some color on the page. Again, you can do it dry with a sponge or your finger and spread that color around, or you can use it wet by putting color down and wetting your paintbrush and spreading the color around. We're going to cover our entire page so that we can get a nice clean background. We want to make sure that we are blending those colors in. Remember that you can always add a little bit more if you didn't cover the entire page, or if you wanted it a little bit darker, or you wanted to add a different color. When you're using watercolor, something important to remember is that if you add a different color on top before you've dried it, it is going to blend into the first color. Now, if you want to add a different color and you don't want it to blend, just make sure that it's totally dry, which is what I did with my heat gun there. I'm using a stencil and I drew right on top of the stencil with the gelato, and I'm blending it with a soft sponge. Now, you don't want to add too much color. It will catch on the stencil, so don't worry about filling in all the holes and it'll be fine. The other thing that you can do is you can spray your gelatos while you have them down, and you can pick up some of that color with a paper towel or use the stencil, and you can have a negative of that stencil by rubbing it with a paper towel or a baby wipe. We can also draw with our gelatos and also use that gelato and dip that paintbrush right into the gelato to pick up more color. Now, when you draw with gelatos, you can see I used a heavy hand on my heart so you can see the definite shape on the outside. But if you don't want to see the lines, you can do like I'm doing now on the sides. I just drew with the gelato flat because it has a flat top, and that will make the colors blend more and not leave any lines, because sometimes you want both. So you just want to remember to blend those gelatos. And once you've done that, once it's dry, whether you're using the wet technique or the dry technique, once it's done, you can see it's not lifting up on my hands. It also doesn't transfer or smear onto the other page. So I've used gelatos in all of my journals. I can fold those pages together and they're not going to start transferring onto the other page. The most important thing that I can tell you about gelatos is to blend. That is hugely important. Whether you've done the dry technique or the wet technique, either way, you want to blend that color together. You can use sponges, soft sponges, hard sponges, or your finger or a wet paintbrush. You just want to make sure to blend those colors. If you don't blend those colors together, that gelato is going to stay active. I'm drawing on the page, and just those very little marks, you can see how much it's going to smear and move. So you want to make sure to blend that in before you are finished with your project. And then it won't come off on your hand like it is right now. Well, unless you're using your finger to blend it. But just make sure to blend it and you will be ready to go for your next project. So here are some close-ups where you can see the drawings and the painting, the stencils and the lifting of the color. So fabulous, right? Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video and will give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. I'm Rita Barakat and I will see you next time.